Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited about today's video. We are doing kind of a shop my stash, what's in my everyday makeup drawers. I recently went through all of my makeup and kind of shuffled things around and picked out some things that I haven't used for a while, some old favorites. I kept in a couple of newer favorites. So this is kind of what I am using right now and what I will be using over the next couple of months. It's actually been a while since I've done an official shop my stash video, but I love these videos because it's always such a good reminder to use the good products that you already have. We all know, those of us that have larger makeup collections or been into makeup for a really long time, it's easy to forget the things that you have that might help you to not feel the urge to go out and buy every new release. So that's what we'll be doing today. I'm gonna walk you guys through what I have here on, I have a little plastic drawer unit here on my desk, and then I have a stack of eyeshadow palettes that we'll also go through as well. Can't wait to share them with you guys. Before we do that though, if you are new here, a very special welcome to you. Please be sure that you subscribe to my channel before you leave and that your notifications are turned on. And with that, we do have a lot of makeup to go through, so let's get right to it. All right, so here's my little container. We're gonna start with the stuff on the top, which is basically lip setting sprays, primers, and foundations. So let's go through, why don't we kind of go through the primers and foundations first. So I did pick out my e.l.f. Halo Glow Liquid Filter. So I've been alternating this and my Hollywood Flawless filter back and forth, and I think as much as I've always said that they're really good dupes for each other, I do think that the e.l.f. is maybe even a little bit better. This one is just a little bit creamier and less sticky, which the more I use them back and forth, I find myself just preferring this one a little bit more. I didn't notice that difference the first handful of times that I tried them, but the more I've used them, the more I think this one I might like even better. Don't get me wrong, I love them both, but that one is just, it's such a great drugstore product. They did such a good job with this. I also pulled in my Pretty Smart Radiant Face Primer. I'm still kind of familiarizing myself with this. I tried it out a couple of weeks ago in a drugstore video that I did. I like it. I don't know that it's my favorite hydrating or radiant or glowy primer that I own, but I do enjoy it, and I just want to get to know it a little bit better, get some use out of it before I definitively decide if I like it enough to keep. One more primer, my Flower Beauty Celestial Priming Whip. This is one of my all-time favorite primers. If you're looking for hydration and a little bit of glow, this is such a good one. It just really softens up your skin. It really sinks into your skin well and just preps your skin for foundation, especially if you are older and you have dry skin. Not all primers really like penetrate and soften up your skin to the point where any foundation is just gonna go on a little bit better. That one does a great job. This one is the newer Maybelline Superstay 30-Hour Lumi Matte Foundation. I like this more and more the more I use it. I don't know that I'll say, I definitely will not say that I like it as much as my Superstay, which I also have up here, but if you don't like the glow, the luminosity of the Superstay, and you're just looking for something a little bit more of a natural finish, this is a really good foundation and it builds up really well. That's one of the things I didn't really communicate the first time that I tried this, was how buildable it is. But if you put 2 layers of this stuff on, you can get really good high medium coverage out of it, and it doesn't look heavy at all. It's a really nice lightweight foundation and it wears really well. So it's a good one. I'm liking it more and more the more I use it. By the way, I use the shade 128, which is a really good match for me. As I mentioned, I have both of my Superstays here. I have shades 118 and 220, which I mix together. Oh, seriously, one of the best foundations ever. Oh, sorry about that. I also am going to continue to use my Purito BB cream. This is the darker one, so I've been combining this with the lighter shade of the Superstay, and that makes a really nice combination. I'm actually getting close to using this thing up, which kind of surprised me because I didn't realize until recently. I mean, I have rotated this back into my collection. I talked about it in my favorites video in January, but prior to this last month, it kind of got a good long rest from me. It's so good. The coverage on this is insane. For a BB cream, it's one of the best highest coverage BB creams that I own. Speaking of BB CC creams, I pulled in my IT Cosmetics Illumination CC cream. I use the shade Light. It's a decent shade match for me. I think it's a little bit light on me. I think the last time I used this, I had to mix a little bit of like a darker, maybe one of these two. Maybe, actually, I should try this out together. The Purito and the IT Cosmetics CC. That would probably be a good combination. I might give that a try. I do love this stuff. This has been one of the longest standing favorites on my makeup channel. It was one of the first higher end foundations that I really fell in love with. It looks beautiful on the skin. It's not super long wearing though. That's the only thing. I find that after about 6 or 8 hours, this kind of starts to fade off and break down on my skin a little bit, but it looks beautiful for the first 5 or 6 hours. Then I also pulled in my About Face Performer foundation. This is another one that's really good. It's more of a natural finish. It's not super luminous, but it has really good medium coverage. The shade match for me is good. I have LM1 Neutral, so light, medium, 1 neutral. It's great. This is a great foundation. I actually really like the doe foot applicator. I didn't think I liked it the first time I tried it out. It's hard to get out though. It makes it so easy just to kind of swipe this on your face. It's just such a good way to apply foundation. It's really, really quick. I also have this. It's the Milani Conceal and Perfect Blur Out Skin Tint Stick. So I know I ragged on this thing a little bit in my last video because seriously though, you guys, this only has, actually it doesn't say on the packaging. Probably good it doesn't say on the packaging. I already threw away the box, so I don't know how much product this has, but look at this. For $16.99, you're only getting like an inch, maybe that's 1.5 inches of product. And I don't know. I'm already, like, I can tell that this is gonna wear down fast. I've used it about 4 times now. I actually like how it looks on the skin. It looks nice. It's a more mattifying kind of satin matte finish, but it has good medium coverage. It's pretty easy to apply. I've tried it with both a sponge and a brush, and I like it both ways. I still, though, I just think $16.99, and I did see that you can find it for $15.99 at Walmart and Target, but still, I can't get over that price. That just feels so high for a stick foundation, even more than like a liquid foundation. For some reason, I'm just all bugged about that. But anyways, those are my thoughts. I'm gonna use it since I bought it. I'll keep using it. I do have my 3 of my lip kind of plumpers. Have the Profusion one here. This one's in Pretty in Pink. I love this. I have one in my purse right now as well. Another one on my floor that I plan to give to my sister. And then I have the Plout Clout Plumping Pen in Pinky Out. This is another one that's similar to this one. These are actually pretty similar to each other, both in color and formula, but I do like the Profusion one a little bit better. It's also cheaper. I think if you can find these at your drugstore, they're under $5, whereas these ones are $8. And then I pulled in the Wine, it's called Plum On Over. This is more of like a berry toned color, but it's really pretty. They kind of sheer out really well. It's very pretty, so I'm gonna try and get some use out of that this time of year. I think it's perfect time for a berry toned lip. I do love the formula of these. I do think the e.l.f. one's a little bit stickier than the Profusion one. The Profusion one is a little bit more balmy and soft. Both are shiny, both are comfortable. The e.l.f. one's just a little bit more on the sticky side. 2 setting sprays I picked out, my Power Grip Dewy Setting Spray, and then my Milk Power Grip Dewy Setting Spray. I actually like the e.l.f. one even better than the Milk one. And by the way, the Milk one, which they sent this to me, by the way, but initially I thought this had the best sprayer ever, but it's kind of started getting, I think it's getting a little better. I'd stopped using it for a while, and then I went to pull it out again and it got a little bit clogged, so it was like shooting a stream of liquid on my face. It wasn't as misty as it was before, so just be careful of that. And that kind of, I don't know, it made me like it even a little bit less. The formula's nice. It's pricey. I think there's good setting sprays you can get at the drugstore, and setting spray is just not one of those things that I want to spend a lot of money on. So, okay, I have a classic red lip here. This is Pioneer from Superstay. This is such a good red. It's just a good classic kind of, I don't know, like Taylor Swift kind of red, like old Hollywood. Not even old Hollywood. Old Hollywood red is more like a brick red. It's just like a true red. It's really, really nice. Actually, let me swatch it for you guys. Even though I don't know, my lighting's amazing right here. It is more like a blue-based red, but it's beautiful. I love this. This is the Flower Beauty Melon Pop liquid lipstick. This is just a really fun, vibrant kind of corally, punchy pink. It's really, really pretty. It's actually like the same color as my nails. It's a fun color for spring or for Valentine's Day if you like a bold pink, which I don't reach for super often, and I feel like it's less and less I have to force myself to do it. But when I do, there's just something about having like a bold lip once in a while that if you have the bravery to pull it off, if you're someone that's a little bit timid about that, they're really fun to wear, and I think they always are flattering. Then I have some lip glosses over here. I've got my CoverGirl Yummy Gloss in Coconut. I've got I actually think this one's also called Coconut. Yeah, my Tower 28, also in Coconut. This one's a little bit more pink, whereas the Yummy Gloss is a little more clear. I have my Lifter Gloss here in Peach Ring. This is a really nice shade. You guys know I love the Lifter Gloss. This is a Cindy Grace Liquid It's not really a liquid lipstick. It's a gloss, but it's super pigmented. These remind me of those Wet n Wild liquid catsuit, I think. They're super pigmented. This one I think is called Bailey. It's a beautiful color and formula. I highly recommend these if you liked those liquid catsuits. This one I think is an even better formula. Super pigmented, very pretty. They come in a lot of pretty shades. Then I have my NYX gloss in the shade Peaches and Cream. Beautiful kind of vibrant pink. And then right here I have my Kapari lip glossy. This is the clear one. This is such a nice hydrating lip gloss. It's almost like a lip oil. It's just very like thin. It feels very thin on your lips. It just really softens them up. I've got a couple lipsticks. I've got my MAC, I think this is Blankety. Really good light nude for when I'm in the mood. Peachy Nude by Flower Beauty. Gosh, I'm running out of space here. So these two they're kind of similar. Peachy Nude is just a little bit more peach, whereas Blankety is a little more like, it's like a pinky grayish. I don't know. They're both good nude lips though. I've got Pleasure Hair from Milani. I used this in a video recently and I've continued to use it since then because I actually really like it. And then this is from Pat McGrath. I got this on sale years ago. This is Lady Stardust. It's okay. I would never have bought this if it wasn't on sale. The packaging is amazing, but I just am not. I don't use lipstick super often anyways, so I certainly am of the mind now, for at least, that spending over $20 on a lipstick is just a little crazy. All right, I've got some mascaras and concealers here. So here are the mascaras that I've picked out. I've got my e.l.f. Lash It Loud, my Maybelline Sky High primer, but I use it as a mascara on like more natural days, which I really love this. The Tower 28 mascara, the original Maybelline Sky High, this is the new tube, and also a new tube of my Panorama mascara, which I love so much. This is gonna be my baseball mascara for this spring. This is, other than the Maybelline, although this is a newer tube of Maybelline, I haven't put this tube to the test on like baseball, watery spring, watching sports outside when it's windy eyes, when my eyes water like crazy. The old tube of Sky High mascara that I had was really budge proof and watery eye resistant, but we'll see if this one is. I hope that it is. This Panorama mascara is so good. It's like, it will not come off except for with like a makeup melt or an oil-based remover or really, really warm, almost hot water, but it holds up incredibly well to watery eyes. And it's also, I don't just mean it holds up to watery eyes where it won't run, but if you know what it's like to be outside and your eyes are watering and you're constantly kind of wiping at the corner of your eye, and over time the mascara just kind of fades off or rubs off or just goes away, this stays on your lashes. Like, it will even hold up to the constant like wiping of your eyes. It just does not come off. It's so, so good. And over here we have my concealers. Let me also pull these out. Okay, this one is my Cali Ray Hideaway concealer. I have Pale Sun, a must-have for when I have really dark under eyes. I've got two shades of my Flower Beauty. I have light and light medium right here. It's the serum concealer from Flower Beauty that I love. I've got my YSL All Hours concealer here. I have the shade LW1. This is a really good concealer as well. By the way, you get a ton of product in that. I think it has 0.4 ounces in it, which is a lot. Both my Revlon Flexwear concealers. This is fastly becoming one of my most used concealers. I just love it. It's such a good drugstore concealer. It has great coverage. It wears really well. It's not very drying. You don't have to use a lot to get good coverage out of it. It's just a really good one. Got my Butter Glow concealer here. This is the lightest shade. I like to use this on my, just a tiny dot of this on my eyelids when I really want them to be nice and bright before I'm doing like a more dramatic eye makeup look or something. And then my Incognito concealer. This is actually a newer shade to me. This is the shade Light Medium. And it's actually the exact same as the other shade I have, which I think is light beige. They're not different at all. It's very peachy in tone. It works good under the eyes. Doesn't really work on the rest of my face, but I do love the formula of that concealer. And let's go here next. So in here I have all my tiny palettes, like my little like 4 or 5 pan palettes, and then all my brow products as well. Let's go through the eye palettes I have in here first. So first off, these two LA Girl palettes I'm still kind of working on. I just tried these out in a recent video. I like these. I love the shimmers in them. The cream formula is not my favorite cream formula. It kind of reminds me of Huda Beauty's creamy eyeshadow formula. It's just a little bit creasy if you use too much. But other than that though, I really like the formula of these and I love the shimmers. I also pulled in my Mini Sculpt palette from Natasha Denona. This thing is a rock star. I love it if you like your basics, if you like matte shades. This is really, really good. Couple drugstore ones. I pulled in the Coconut Dream from Relove by Revolution. This is such a good little quad. And then I pulled in my Coral Me Maybe from Essence. Such a good little, I wanted to pull in a couple of these, but I just decided on that one. As for brow products in here, first off, I've got my brow palette from Sydney Grace. This thing is such a mess, but it's so good. This is the soft brown version. Got a couple of pencils inside here. I've got the Blade Brow from Relove by Revolution, which is super good. You can get this for like $3 at Walmart. This one is the Peri Para Speedy Skinny Brow. I got this on YesStyle. Sometimes you can find some Korean brand beauty products on Amazon. If I can find this one there, I will link it there as well. But great little brow product. I highly recommend Korean beauty brands for their brow products. It's one of the things they do really, really well, and they're usually very cheap. I want to say this is probably around $5 to $7. Got my Weekend Brow here, which is a brow pen from Milani. This one is in soft brown. This one's a little bit gray toned on me. I have to make sure I blend it out really well or it looks a little bit unnatural, but I do love a brow pen for a specific type of a like very defined brow. Elf Shape and Stay Brow Pencil Wax. Got my Sacco brow styling soap here. The brow gels I picked out, my Refi brow gel. This one is in medium brown. I have the Physicians Formula Butter Brazilian brow gel. This is a clear brow gel. It is it's like hairspray on your brows. It's gonna make them very crunchy, but it will not budge. If you really need your brows to not go anywhere, and if you have the time to wait for it to dry, this is really, really good. And then I have my Lacquer Tinted Brow Gel. This one is in the shade, I think it's called Balance is the name of the shade. It's the brown one. They have a clear one, a black one, and a brown one. This is the brown version. And then I have my NYX The Glue in Taupe. All right, working our way down, we have my bronzers next. Hang on, I'm gonna take this whole thing out and we'll go through these. First off, my Physicians Formula Diamond Bronzer. This one, I have another one waiting for this. I have a replacement. This one, it's like I hit some serious pan on. One of my favorite cream bronzers in my entire collection. I absolutely love this shade and formula. I also pulled in my Merit bronzer, cream bronzer stick in clay. This is another great one. Let's stick with the cream bronzers. I've got my Fenty Butter Biscuit, another really good cream bronzer if you have fair skin. Beautiful, beautiful shade. I'm gonna keep using the LA Girl. This is a bronzer blush duo. I actually love the blush and I like this bronzer. It's actually contour in moderation. If I'm really going full out on my makeup, I'll do just a tiny bit of this to contour out my cheeks and my nose a little bit. And then I'll go on top of it with a normal bronzer that warms up my complexion. And then of course a blush and a highlighter. So it's an extra step. It's not necessary, but if you are someone that likes to contour and you have more fair skin, this is a really good shade for contour. Contouring is just not something that I do every day. I also have in here my Thrive Cosmetics bronzer in Rhea. Such a good powder bronzer. Milani bronzer in the shade 2. This one is also fantastic. I'm wearing this one on my skin today. And then my Relove Super Bronzer. This one's in the shade Desert. Really good one from the drugstore for, I think it's $2.98. I mean, have you ever seen a $3 bronzer that didn't totally suck? It's actually better than I thought it would be. In the pan, it doesn't look like a shade that would suit me, but it goes on prettier than it looks in the pan. Okay, and then down below right here, I have my blushes, and there are a lot. So let's go through these one by one. First off, I think I always have my Nabla 2 Reasons blushes in every Shop My Stash I've done for the last year. I just can't not have these in there. They're so good. I love them both. I have Soft Nude. Actually, no, this one's Touch My Soul. This is the berry toned one. And then this one is Soft Nude, which is such a pretty nude shade. You basically get like a clear balm here. If you need a little extra hydration on your cheeks, I'll usually dip into both of them. For this one in particular, I sometimes will just go straight to the cream blush, but I actually like using them both. Probably have oily skin, you're probably not gonna like this kind of balmy formula. I think it's meant to be more, this is supposed to be a product that's meant for your cheeks or your lips. I would never use these on my lips. I just, functionally and just the packaging that they're in, I just feel like it doesn't make much sense. But I love them for my cheeks. They're one of my favorite blushes of all time. I pulled in my Rare Beauty blush in the shade Bliss. I need to get more use out of these. I know they're super popular. Everyone seems to love them, but here's what I am discovering. I think I prefer cream blushes and bronzers over liquid blushes and bronzers, especially as I get more hyperpigmentation on my face. I just find cream formulas are a little easier to work with for my cheeks, but I don't dislike it. I just need to use it a little bit more. I don't know. I know everyone loves these. I just kind of feel meh about them. They're good. Again, I think it's more the formula than anything. Pulled in MAC Peaches here. This is a product that needs to get more use for me. It looks like I've never even used it. I may have only used it 2 or 3 times, honestly. Yeah, it's pretty. I just have too much. That's really comes down to just that. Speaking of MAC, I also pulled in this shade, which I think is called, yeah, Grand. Beautiful kind of corally nude shade. It's beautiful for the spring. I pulled in Carmel from Persona. Such a perfect blush shade. If you like nude blushes, if you have like medium to fair skin, this is such a perfect shade. I think it goes with anything. Whether I'm doing warm or cool tones, it just looks amazing on the cheeks. I love the Persona formula because you don't need to use hardly any. I pulled in this palette right here, which I tried out a couple months ago. I found this at a TJ Maxx. It's a bronzer, blush, and a highlighter. I don't love the highlighter, but I really like the bronzer and the blush in here. And I love Pat McGrath blushes. They're so nice. This is Naked Peony is the name of the blush. Okay, I've got both of my House Lab blushes in here. I have the shades French Rosette and Hibiscus Haze. These are really good. If you have a large makeup budget and you like higher end blushes, both packaging and formula, these are really good. I would say they're just like a matte formula. I think that the, is it Hibiscus? Yeah, Hibiscus Haze might have a touch of a sheen to it, but it's very, very subtle. I'd mostly say these are mattes, but perfect shades. This one's much more of a cool tone pink. This one's more of like a warm rose, kind of terracotta sort of rose. Beautiful, beautiful formula. Very pigmented, but very blendable. I love these. They're so pretty. And I pulled in my Milk makeup. This one's in the shade Flip. This is such a pretty shade. It's actually like the same color as my nails, which is kind of like a magenta reddish pink. Very pretty and vibrant and fun. I love these things. I feel like they've been neglected by me lately, so I thought we'd pull in at least one of those. This I just tried out recently, and you guys, I've been using this every day since I tried it out about a week ago, and I love it. I think the more I use this, the more this shade is just so great. When I swatch it, it looks very orange on my hand, but it's much more just of like a basic kind of warm pink on my cheeks that looks flawless. I think I don't really want to say that yet, but I've been preferring this even to the Milk makeup ones recently because it's so easy to use. I will say though, so this is the brush that I usually use for like any cream blush or even my Milk Jelly tints. This is from Alter Ego. It's a little bit more stipply at the top, but I find this brush doesn't work as good with this. I actually think a sponge might work even better than like a stipply brush like this. I've really been enjoying applying this with the Milk makeup brush. I don't know if you guys can see kind of the bristles on these. This one's much more kind of stipply and loose. This one is very dense. So if you have a small, denser, almost like foundation type brush, something very, very stiff and dense, but very soft, works really good with this jelly blush from Revolution. I would recommend going with something like that or with a sponge, but I love this. I can't stop using it. And with all these blushes in here, this is the only thing that I keep using day after day. It's amazing. Kind of surprised by how much I've fallen in love with that one. And then I pulled in my Tower 28 cream blush in the shade Beach Please blushes in the shade Magic Hour. It's just a good basic kind of beigey nude. These are very pigmented, very creamy. Do not need a lot, but look at that pretty shade. Actually kind of reminds me of the soft nude blush from Nabla. Beautiful. I can barely close my drawer. So many good choices. Okay, now last up, let's go to my highlighters. Okay, so I pulled in my Ambient Lighting Edit palette because I need to use another one I kind of regret. I like the blushes in here. I'll be honest, I don't love the bronzer in here. I think it's a little dark for me. Plus I just generally like to apply my bronzer with a larger brush, and I find these smaller pans for bronzer to be a little bit more troublesome. I mean, you can get them to work, but it's just harder if you're using a larger brush. Again, I like this. I need to stop falling for these. I mean, it's been several years since I have fallen for the hype and bought one of these, but I finally did again, and I kind of regret the $90 I paid for that. Ugh, ouch. I've got two Nabla highlighters here. I pulled them both in. This is Ozone, which is a really good kind of icy champagne, and then Amnesia, which is more of a golden champagne. They're both beautiful. I'm wearing Amnesia on my skin today. Highly recommend. I also pulled in my Anastasia Beverly Hills Glow Seeker highlighter. very golden in tone, but it's very light. I love this highlighter. The packaging is stunning. It looks like a macaroon. Isn't that adorable? I also have my MAC highlighter here in Double Gleam. Such a classic. Kind of reminds me of Ozone, by the way, by Nabla. Both are great. Highly recommend either one. And then last but not least, I have my Makeup Revolution Just My Type highlighter, which is also a good kind of dupe for Ozone or for Double Gleam. It also, I mentioned it's a dupe for that Jacqueline highlighter that I also love. Really good. I should probably just buy the new version with the newer packaging because mine's broken, but just, it doesn't bother me that much. Other than when I'm filming videos, it's kind of a nuisance, but for everyday use, as long as I'm not traveling, great highlighter. All right, now we're gonna jump over to the eyeshadow palettes. These usually sit on a little drawer unit that I have over to my right here in my makeup room, but I decided to pull the little holders. They're just these little like slots that they sit in just onto my desk, and we'll kind of walk through what I picked out. I have 2 of these holders. They each hold 7, so that's 14 palettes. I ended up picking out just 13 this time, which is still way excessive. I really should probably cut this down to just 1 of these units and use just 7, because I almost never get through all of the palettes in the 1 or 2 month period that I'm kind of trying to shuffle through my makeup. I usually pick a handful of ones that I really love and just use them over and over again, but I like having them there as reminders of ones that need to get some use, and then it kind of works itself out. But I'll walk you guys through what I did pick out for the next month or 2. Let's start with this unit right here. So I picked out these 2 palettes. I talked about my favorite kind of Valentine's Day pink toned eyeshadow palettes, and these were 2 of the ones that I mentioned. These are both of the Pat McGrath Mothership Mega Holiday releases that she did a couple of years ago. I love both of these palettes. They're pretty pricey. I think when I got these, actually this one I found at a Marshall's for like, I think it was like $25, which is such a great price. Normally these I think are they 75, 76? I can't remember. They may have been closer to 50, but that's actually not a terrible price for Pat McGrath. I do love her eyeshadows, and I love both of these palettes. This one especially has some really bold shades in it that I don't reach for very often, like particularly like these 2 shades right here, although I did use this pink the other day. But if you can overlook a couple of the really bold shades, you get a lot of really good kind of pinky neutrals in here that are so fun. I love her shimmers. She has a lot of different shimmer formulas that I really like to play around with. This is the first one that I picked up. I think I've had this one for about 3 years now, and I love this one. It's kind of like a brownie pink with a couple other jewel tones in it. Beautiful shimmers. Such a fun palette to play with. If you like pink toned eyeshadows, really you could use these palettes any time of year, but this is a good time of year to pull them out if you happen to own them. I also picked out my Huda Beauty Icy Nude palette. I just like, this is such a wintry palette. I wanted to pull it in to give it a little bit more use over the next month or 2. I'll be honest guys, this might, if I could go back, I probably would not buy this again. It was pretty pricey. It's a good palette. It's just not the easiest palette to use. It's hard to get a neutral looking look out of this palette because so much in here is so bold. The shimmers are so bold and intense. The deep mattes are so rich and deep and dark. The light shades, like these light matte shades, are so white based that you just get a very stark look even if you try and use a light hand. But it is a very pretty palette. I do enjoy it. I just feel like for someone that likes more natural looks, you got to be a little careful with this thing. You want to go in with an extremely light hand. These 2 palettes from Sydney Grace are so good. This one has been discontinued. This is the Unbreakable Bond palette. Oh, beautiful. I love the pink tones in here. Anytime I pull out a Sydney Grace palette, her shimmer formula is so incredible. It's so metallic and glorious. I just love these shades here. I mean, just look at these. They're so stunning. Oh, love Sydney Grace so much. This one is still available, and you guys, I've been using this more and more recently, especially as I've been in such a neutral mood, and it is such a good neutral palette. It's the Love's Journey palette. I think this might slowly be replacing my favorite Enduring Love palette, which I still love from Sydney Grace, but this one is just so neutral. It looks kind of gray in the pan, which is maybe why it took me a while for this palette to grow on me, because some of these mattes look very kind of like blah or grayish or grayish-ish, but they're so pretty on the eyes. Like these ones have more kind of pinky beige in them and more warmth. They show up more on your eyes than you would anticipate that they would looking at them in the pan. I love this palette. It's such a good neutral one. If you like your neutrals that aren't too warm and that aren't too cool, other than this bottom row, which is truly like they're gray tones, but they're really pretty gray tones that are fun to throw in with some of the more neutral shades in here. It's just a really fun palette to play with. Fantastic quality. It is the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes today. And I mean, this is just like the perfect everyday look. I love it so much. It's such a great color story. Another palette I pulled in to my stash for this kind of winter, the next couple months of winter, is the Blueberry Muffin palette from BH Cosmetics, which has been discontinued, sadly, but I love this palette if you happen to still own it. The shimmers in this one are glorious. They are beautiful and sparkly, a lot of pinky tone shimmers in here, kind of icy tone shimmers. You get some good browns and neutrals. It's just a really fun, kind of underrated palette. I mean, you look at these 3 shades and you'd think you would just not want to touch this thing, at least someone like me that doesn't like bold blue tones. But other than those shades, there's some really good neutrals and shimmers in here that I just love. Okay, the last one in this little sleeve is, I probably jumped the gun on this one a little bit. This is more of like an Easter palette, but I grabbed it anyways. This is the new Light palette from Huda Beauty. I love this palette. I think this is the best Huda Beauty palette I've ever bought. I have some other of this size from her that I like, but this one is just perfection. I love the shades in here, a lot of pinky tones. I mean, I guess this is good Valentine shades, although Valentine's Day is one day and I have so many options here. But pink is one of those colors that I almost put, especially if you're dealing with like softer, more muted pinks, I kind of put them in the neutral category. I just think they look flattering on anyone. They're beautiful on the eyes. They're so soft and feminine, and this is a really fun one. I love the shimmers in here and some of these like kind of terracotta mauve-y shades for the outer corner. It's beautiful. Such a good little palette. Okay, let's go over to the other side. I do have another palette from Sydney Grace that is a really fun one. I don't think that you can buy these ones anymore. I will link Sydney Grace's website down below, but if you happen to pick this one up, this is the On the Horizon Light palette. There are some stunning shades in here. This pink, this purple, and this shimmer right here, Magellan's Light. This is like one of my favorite lid shimmers that she's ever done. It's kind of like a pinky bronze. It's a really interesting color that I have never seen something quite like this. I can't really explain. Do you guys see that? It's kind of like it's got some brown in it, but it does have that rosy tone to it that is just so pretty. It has kind of like a gold and blue sort of sparkle in it. It's lovely. I love this palette. Even these like blues and these teals are really fun to play with. This silver is really nice. It's kind of a taupey, warmer silver. Such a fun palette. I really just like the packaging. It's so like Lisa Frank to me, which I know is kind of cool again. Maybe it just makes me feel old, like that all this stuff is coming back around. Anyone else feel this way? Same thing with fashion. I feel like everything is like cycled back around and I'm like, oh wow, are we already back to the baggy pants with the boys? It's really kind of bizarre. Okay, I do have 2 Natasha Denona palettes that I pulled into my stash. First off, the Retro palette, beautiful berry tones. If you like your berry tones, this in my opinion, and I love berry tones, I have quite a few berry tone palettes. This is the most perfect berry tone eyeshadow palette that exists. It's beautiful. I believe Alter Ego does a dupe for this one, so I will link the dupes for some of these Natasha Denona palettes from Alter Ego down below. I highly recommend the dupes if you're looking to save a little bit of money, but if you happen to own this one, such a great color story for this time of year. One of the things I love particularly about this palette, the Retro palette, are the number of the creamy matte formulas that she has in here. There's like 4 of them, which is more than usual. Usually she'll throw in 1 or 2 creamy matte formulas, or I think it's like cream to powder is the name of it. I don't know. And then she like has even changed it to like the slip cream. It has some different names. Some of them are slightly different, but it's basically like a creamy matte formula that is just so nice if you have older eyelids. And hers is one of the few formulas like that that does not crease on me at all. It doesn't give me any issues. It's just barely creamy, but it's lovely to blend. It builds up really nicely. And I just love this palette so much. The lid shimmers in here are so pretty and sparkly. But I also pulled in my I Need a Nude palette. This palette gets a lot of love for me, whether it's in my official stash or not. I pull this off of my shelf all the time. In fact, it's rarely stashed on my shelf because I believe this is one of my very favorite palettes of all time. It is the best. It is such a perfect color story. It's kind of pink, but not really. It's kind of brown, but not really. It's like not cool or warm. It's just perfectly neutral. Good combination of light and dark, matte and shimmer. You get some really interesting like glitter topper shades in here and formulas that are just stunning. If you're into kind of muted neutral looks, it's honestly one of the best color stories that I've ever seen. And then I pulled in my Anastasia Beverly Hills Nouveau palette. I love this one. I love the kind of muted greens in here. I love the pinks in here. This purple doesn't get a lot of love for me, but it's pretty purple. It just kind of is like a little bold for me. But I mean, other than that, everything else in here I do use and love. Such a fun palette for kind of springtime, but it is a very neutral kind of muted palette. So you could definitely use this any time of year, not just in the spring, but it's one I think of when I think of spring. It's definitely a favorite of mine that I feel like has kind of gotten overshadowed by all the new. I also pulled in this smoky palette that I just tried out recently. I want to keep playing with it. I've really been enjoying this palette. It's so nice. I have such a massive dent already. I mean, literally, there is a true dent in this shade in the middle. This is one of those transition shades. If you have like light to fair skin and find it difficult to find a very muted transition shade, something that's not too pigmented or too bold, but still gonna give you a little something, this is the most perfect transition shade. It's not too pink, it's not too warm, it's not too cool. It's just this like perfect kind of beigey neutral that just looks so pretty with anything that you pair it with. I love that you get some browns in here and some cooler tones. I don't love the black. It's not the highest quality black, but I don't reach for black eyeshadows super often unless they're really, really dark, and I mostly just kind of use them for like a smudgy liner. You can still use it for that. It's just gonna be a little bit less defined and a little bit more kind of charcoal. This is a great little palette for $5. I mean, if this thing was like $10 or $15, I don't know that I'd be as excited about it, but for $5, I mean, it's pretty darn good for that price. And the last palette that I picked into my stash, other than the tiny palettes, is the California Coast palette from Sydney Grace. A lot of Sydney Grace in here. I didn't even realize I have like 1, 2, 3, 4 Sydney Grace palettes. That's quite a bit. You know I love Sydney Grace. This is another perfect color story for Valentine's Day. And it's not that I'm going to use all these palettes on Valentine's Day, but just this time of year where you're kind of tired of like drab winter. I feel like purples or pinks, they're kind of like a entry level to get you through until spring when you really can pull out some of the color, but they're still like appropriate for this time of year if you do like plan your makeup seasonally, which I don't necessarily do that. I mean, these type of shades you can use anytime, as I've said like 10 times already. Beautiful shades in this one though. This one I don't believe you can buy anymore. This is the light version of the California Coast palette, but man, this is so good. The shimmers in here are fantastic. I love these. Especially these 3 matte shades right here are perfect. I love these like rosy shimmers to put on the outer part of the lid. This is a stunning little palette that hasn't got a lot of use from me recently, but I love it so much, so I thought it'd be a good time of year to pull it back out. And that is it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you happen to see some things in this video that you would like to see me pull into some sort of video, maybe like a get ready with me, or anything that you'd like to see in action, let me know down below. But that's gonna do it for today. Thank you guys again for stopping by, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.